Hey guys, welcome back to the Devine Witch. So this is our second podcast in our podcast series. And today I am joined by my husband.
Hello.
And we're just kind of chilling today. I want to tell you guys some things that are going on, some things that you're going to see, talk about all the boring stuff. And then we're just going to have casual conversation, giving our own opinions from a certain pagan perspective, so to speak, or a spiritual perspective, just kind of see where the wind takes us. And I'll make sure to put all that down below. Can't promise I'm going to have timestamps because realistically I'm a squirrel and that's not how this works. So either, if something gets boring, you either search or someone will put a timestamp down below. So without further ado, let's go ahead and dive in. So the first thing that I want to talk about, we're going to talk about the Devine Witch, of course, because that's where you're at and that's who I am.
Right.
So, that kind of makes sense, right?
It does.
You're here, so let's talk about it. So as you guys know, my schedule on YouTube's kind of changed and I've kind of let it just kind of take me where the wind is going. And, the one thing that's pretty much remained the same as the Monday uploads, I have been able to do them a lot more since I'm not focusing so much on the lives. Doesn't mean that the lives aren't happening. It's just more sporadic than planned out. Because in the beginning of the year, I'm like, I want to situate my life. And I think that kind of happens every fall, not fall, but I guess it starts in the fall.
It does.
And then kind of goes into the winter, before the new year. I sit back and I think about things like how did things go, relationships, spirituality, what did I experience, what was new, what growth did I have? And, I think it's important to do periodically throughout the year, but I really deep dive towards the end of the year. And one of the things that I realized is that I needed more of a balance in life. And there was so many times last year that I was just like, why am I doing this? Why am I here?
Which I think that's the reason why you kind of took up on the cooking videos, is just to have something new.
Just something to be a little bit different occasionally. And every time I've ever went live, I do talk about food because you've seen me, I don't miss a meal, you know what I mean? And if I do, something's wrong. But I like my food. And it's one of the things that you don't really see a whole lot of videos that I've noticed where it's cooking and just kind of having casual conversation, showing different recipes. Eventually I do want to get to the point to where, I'm talking about different kitchen witchery techniques that you can do, that I do if you choose so to do, and just kind of grow from there. But like I was saying last year, I had this moment of man, I just feel burned out and I don't know if I should do this anymore. And every time I got to that point, I'm like, I'm done. You ever have that moment in life where you do something and you love it and it's your passion, but then there's those moments where you're just I'm so over it. So that's pretty much what I had been feeling at the time, is I'm just so over this. I need a break. And then someone would reignite the flame, so to speak, and, be I missed you, or, you've always been there for me. And just kind of, it's the universe brought these people into my life just to give me a pep talk. You are not done. We're not done with you yet. So I've kind of took that into consideration. And so when the beginning of the year started, I'm like, I need to step back some. So I did. And I know a lot of you guys noticed. And then, we had some death in the family. Then we got sick. Hubby was dealing with some stomach problems and stuff like that. And that's just life. And people would say, oh my God, you got bad luck or karma. And I'm like, no, we've actually been pretty good for a while. But, sometimes you got to get hit. And I'd rather get hit early on than, somewhere in the middle of the year and me go, oh no, you know what I mean?
That's another thing. You don't expect the medical problems to happen until it happens. And then you're just like, oh.
Right. And you're just sitting there and you're just like, why now? And this is not the right time. But it makes you realize, if you don't start taking care of yourself, then no matter what you're doing, it has no importance whatsoever. You have that moment where you're just kind of okay, so how do I do this? And for the last couple months, I just kind of been filling it out. If I feel like going live, or if I feel the need, or the spirits are coming to me and it's you need to go live now. And I'm like, I ain't going live today. I'm doing my own thing. It's almost in every movie like, I can't remember the one with Michael J. Fox where he's like getting annoyed and is like, just leave me alone. And they're like, no. It's kind of like that, except it's not like full apparitions, you know what I mean? It's just that annoying, like you need to go when you feel that pull, you know? And then whenever I do, it's like someone needing me really bad, or like I end up having a deep conversation. By the way, I am drinking coffee. I do apologize if my voice is going in and out. It's an early morning. It's 5:52 a.m. right now. So, you know, you got to give me a break a little bit.
Well, we did kind of go to bed early.
Yeah. Like anybody who's watched any of my lives, you know, I have insomnia. So like when I don't get good sleep and I have to get up early because of the kids and stuff like that, then that following day I'm just like dragging. And normally if he's at work, you know, I can either get sleep in or I just keep on pushing through. A second wind comes before I know it's 1 o'clock and I pass out, right? Like 1 a.m. But that's beside the point. But like I was saying, okay, I'm going to put this out here. If you have never been to this channel, I am a squirrel. I identify as a squirrel. So like, I'm going to have little side conversations and then I'll get back on point. So if that's not for you, this probably isn't the podcast for you. I'm just telling you. Like, we'll talk about all these different things and it'll remind me of something else. I'll talk about that for a little bit and then we come back. So as I was saying, you know, planning the schedule, the Monday uploads, they're regular. I've just started wanting to do conversations because like I don't want to do videos all the time where you see my face. Sometimes, you know, you're doing things and you don't want to have to be going around your house trying to listen to somebody and feel like you have to watch them because you're missing something.
That's true.
And like there's a lot of things that I want to talk about, or like in the times that I have moments to myself and I'm sitting here thinking about different philosophies, different things in life, you know, learning different new things. And then it changes my perspective from once it was, or how they blend together, you know. Sorry about that. But like, I'm trying to like, I need to get it out and I don't want to type it out. So I'm like, this is the best way to do it. Because when it comes to the website, I haven't really done much with that for a while. And you'll notice reoccurring themes, like when it comes to me, like I love to be creative. I love doing things like this, love doing videos, love writing, but sometimes I like to switch it up. So this kind of gives me an in between, like probably by spring, I'll be in a writing mode and, you know, I'll be talking about that on here and so forth, but I don't want to make it to where like it's a job.
Right.
You know what I mean?
You don't get bored of it either because you're switching it up. You know, you're trying a different one and then you're going back to the same one. And I could see that where you're not burning yourself out on one.
Right. And I feel like that's what I was doing. Like I was burning myself out on time, taking on all these readings, doing lives. Like at one point I was doing lives 5-6 days a week, doing readings every day off of the lives. Then, you know, dealing with my life, my family's life. And as you guys know, last year, my brother, who is dealing with drug addiction, we did the whole rehab thing for him. That was a whole thing. And then he didn't like the facility. So, you know, like between that and everything else, I'm like, I'm losing my mind.
Yeah, but he got better.
He did.
And he got with good people on. And that's a good thing to hear.
Which isn't always the case, you know what I mean? Like it doesn't always happen like that.
No.
And for a while, like my brother was just, I didn't want to be around him. And that sucks, but you know, it is what it is. But like I said, let's see, we're circling back again. I'm thinking about Fridays releasing the podcast. If I do switch it up occasionally, it's because I had something I wanted to talk about and I didn't want to wait a couple days for you guys to hear it. Sundays, I have been doing some like cooking videos I've uploaded for like a kitchen witchery style, or just kind of share something, another passion of mine, you know, because, you know, as witches, pagans, or whatever religion you are, you know, there's so many different parts of us. And, you know, a lot of people come to this channel, whether it be for reading or for because of Hecate or whatever. But realistically, everybody's got to freaking eat, right?
That's right.
Like we all like good food. So I'm like, you know, do this occasionally if like one of our followers wants to submit like recipes that they do for their gods occasionally, or different feast ideas that they do throughout the season, or drink ideas for their gods or spirits, you know, you can send that in. We'll give it a try here, you know, along with, you know, whatever you send. Like if you send a short story, why, or like this has been my family for a while and we've always done this, or whatever, you know what I mean? And it kind of shares some other people's traditions as well when it comes to cooking.
I wish I could share some of my family members' recipes, but they were very secretive about their recipes.
The old school.
We didn't get that.
You don't get to know. I'm taking it with my grave, and then you're going to always be talking about me, so I'll never be forgotten.
That's right.
And then people make it a competition in the family to try to figure out.
Oh yeah.
Which I guess is a way of honoring your ancestors if you think about it too. And that's another thing, like when it comes to food, is like, we all have memories attached to someone made something, even if they were the crappiest person in the world. There's one thing they're always remembered for. And my dad, he knew how to cook. Like, that man was good. He'd make you wait for a chili for 3 days, and by the third day you're like,
but it was so good to eat.
It was good. It was really good. And I'm like, he is killing me. And I'm like trying to sneak some, and he's like, don't do it. And there's the wooden spoon of doom.
You're right.
And it's just like, and that's another thing, like with utensils and things like that, since we're on the cooking subject, is like, over the last couple years, I've really gotten to my wooden spoon.
I know it.
I love my wooden spoon. There's just something about a wooden spoon that it doesn't make it better, but it feels like it does.
It feels like it.
Because like a wooden spoon has a certain weight to it, a certain feel to it. And like, it's sad because last year I spent like money on this like spindle of all these different cooking utensils, because either someone in this house either burn it, fried it, left it on a burner, or threw it away because they left it on a burner. You know what I mean? Like, these people are hazardous to my health, as you can tell. But I think we all kind of have that. So I'm like, I'm going to get new utensils. And then I got them and I use them still. But like, my wooden spoon's like my number one.
Well, those new ones also are like high heat treated, so they can handle high heat. But you like your wooden spoon. You really do.
I do. I really do. Well, another thing that like with the wooden spoon, if you actually get a wooden spoon that's not like coated or, dyed or whatever, you can sit there and you can go buy a wooden spoon. You can put like sigils on it, or like a saying on it. You know what I mean? So that way, well, of course, eventually once you do that, you want to coat it with some like spray, or make sure you clean it off real good, especially if you got something burned into it.
Right.
But then you have to worry about wood shavings if you burn something into it.
Right.
So it's always good to put out like a food grade sealant over it, just for that reason.
Or if you just want to put it in your kitchen for a decoration.
Well, that's what I'm saying. You can do that. Or another thing is like where it has a hole, instead of like using that to hang up, you can attach different colored ribbon to it.
Good.
So like, you could change the ribbon for the holidays. Or let's say you have like 6 spoons and they all have different color. You use your red for when you want to bring love into the house. Use the green one when you want to do something else. Or you can do a rainbow style, like a paracord with it, or a handle paracord. You know what I mean? So like, there's a lot of different options when it comes to it. And these are things that I think I'm going to go over as well, and show the steps of different things you can do. But
it's just a fun little thing that you can do on the side.
Right. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't have to be boring and like, oh, well, it's just food. Well, there's a meaning behind all of it.
Oh yeah.
It's just like, even though you didn't see, like, if you eat meat, if you didn't see it get slaughtered, you knew it sacrificed its life. You know what I mean? And as you're messing with that meat and you're prepping it, you're thanking the spirit that gave that meat. You know what I mean? And then, you can always use raw meat for spirit work as well, or cooked dishes for, offerings. And then, plus it makes traditions too.
It does.
Bring out an old recipe that you got, someone you miss, during those times where, you're celebrating your ancestors.
You cook that and then brings back memories you had with them.
Right. It's just like some people will celebrate people's birthdays even after they're gone.
Yeah.
Now, me personally, do I do that? No, because I barely know the birthdays of the living, yet remember the birthdays of the dead. But do I see that as a bad thing? No,
It's not.
because it brings the family together, or friends and family. They can celebrate their life. They can have a good time. They create new memories. And it's almost like when we call upon our ancestors and you have them around, and you get that vibration like they're still around, even though you can't see them.
Right. It's a good thing.
I mean, I think so.
Some people, may make you sad and cry, but it's good to think about the ones you don't have around anymore.
And I also think, like, when it comes to kitchen witchery or just cooking in general, I'm just going to say cooking from now because you all get it. I've said kitchen witchery so much. Like, you can comment down below how many times I've said kitchen witchery. We need a little, like, I need to find out how to put like one of those like counters every time I say something repetitively. It just starts counting it. You know what I mean? Give away prizes.
Buttons, it's a clicker, and every time you say it, you hit it, and then it counts it.
Right. There's a way to do it. I think you got to embed it in the code, but I haven't done that. I haven't even looked into it, so I don't know.
Right.
But kitchen witchery, just for
click, click, click.
Just to say it, just to say it. You know what I mean? And that's another thing too. Like with oils, like different oils have different property of the plant.
A good one.
Right. Olive oil brings peace of mind, clarity, when you're using that. Now, as far as like the properties of like canola oil and stuff like that, I don't know.
Oil.
I'll have to look into it and see what I find.
We use olive oil a lot around here, and that's also for our deities and cooking. So it's a big thing that we buy a lot because it's got a lot of purposes.
Right. And plus you can use it for cleansing, like oil cleansings. You can use it for,
it's good for your skin.
When you're doing your circle casting, it's good for your skin. You can even mix up a little bit of it with some aloe vera. So that way when you use aloe vera for your burns or whatever,
right,
you get the properties of the olive oil as well. I don't know how well it'll mix because aloe vera is more of a kind of like a gel, but water-based. So like you'd have to play with it a little bit.
Like the oil may float to the top of that. I'm not really sure because we haven't really mixed that up to see.
Right.
But it would, if one of you give it a try and you see how it comes out, let us know.
By the way, the kisses you heard, that wasn't to the hubby, that was to my puppy. Because she's like right here with me, and I'm like, oh, she wants to be part of the podcast.
She does.
And every morning I come down, she gives me kisses, and I'm like, oh, that's the babies. She's big though. She's a big baby. She gets jealous of the little babies too, and that's just funny. But
you don't have to be jealous.
And that's like when with my kids, you know what I mean? Like, well, my oldest, not so much my youngest. My youngest this year will probably start working with her. And she gets excited about it, but I think it's one of those things too. Like she wants to play her game and do stuff else.
She really does. She's really big in gaming. So
it's time to be like, get in the kitchen.
Right.
Ain't that right? Say,
learn how to cook.
Right? Cook. Just poke them and be like, cook automatically. That's how it feels like with kids when they're young. They're just like, cook. I'm hungry. Cook. Feels like that's all you're doing for the first like 6-7 years. Cook. Until you're like, ooh, McDonald's.
She's learned a lot. She's made some good meals.
But like that's what I'm talking about, like when you're prepping food and stuff like that. Like in the house, if I'm ever mad, I don't cook when I'm mad. Well, I don't. Because every time you cook when you're mad or you're frustrated, it will ruin the taste of your food. It
really will. That's why you say always cook with love. Put a lot of love in.
Like it seems crazy, but it really truly is. I guess this has become about kitchen witchery. I guess that's what I'll label it as. But
click.
Right. Kitchen witchery. Tick tick. It keeps on going. I forgot about that. I should ring my bell every time I say something repeatedly. Just have you just go ding ding. But yeah, like when you're chopping things and bread making has never really been one of my biggest things, but I do want to do it more since I do got a bread maker because my
cookie into it there for a while and we made some good breads.
Oh my God, we did.
But we also got
one thing I noticed though is with that bread maker, like it makes the dough and everything perfect, and like you can let it rise and it does all that. So that way you just put it in the pan, let it rise maybe one more time, and then throw it in the oven and you're good. Turns out perfect. But if I have to knead it myself and do all that, I can't do it.
It's weird. I guess the bread maker itself, I guess, needs it.
But I did find out that if you use butter and flour in your pan first, it'll make the loaf easier to come out and it won't stick.
Oh, well, good.
And I was like, that is freaking awesome. Why didn't I know this before?
There's a couple times where we had to take a knife and cut around the edges of it. It wasn't burn or anything. It just didn't want to come out of the pan. Yeah.
And the only bad thing that I don't like about baking in the bread maker is the fact that you got that thing in there. And if you don't remember to take it out,
it's inside the bread.
Then it's inside the bread.
Yeah. And you have to dig it out yourself.
And that's the thing. Like, I would love to do some like lavender muffins, like get the recipe. I need to actually get a cookbook for that. So, because you know what I mean, like when you get it the first week or two, you're like, yeah. And then afterwards, you're like, oh, that's nice. But if you have a cookbook and you're like looking through it and you're forced to look at it because you put it in front of your face.
I actually found that the other day to that bread maker. There's all kinds of stuff in that book to make different breads and stuff.
Like I think you could even make pasta.
Yeah.
Like the actual dough for it in there, and it would be easier.
See another one. Cakes.
Yeah.
There was a cake one. There's just.
I know you can do jams, yogurt, and stuff like that.
So it's a bread maker it got a variety of things it can do.
Right. The best kitchen witchery tool I got, ding ding, is my Instapot.
Oh yeah.
Like I love my oven and my stove, but my Instapot is my go-to. Like you just throw it all and within 20 minutes you're eating a full dinner.
It's been the best investment.
$50 I bought it for.
Oh, it's worth every dollar.
No, I think originally they were like $100 and some,
Yeah.
but I got it during like a Black Friday sale or something like that. But I'll tell you what, that thing cooks rice quick. It cooks chicken quick. That's what I do to put my, pulled chicken or pulled pork.
Also boiled eggs, potatoes. I mean,
and then you don't have to sit there and second guess, like, is my eggs going to be done? You know they're done. And it's all the way through. Like you ain't second guessing yourself when it comes to that.
It's just been the most perfect investment. And when it dies, I will be buying another one.
I know. I thought about getting a couple others just in case.
It doesn't hurt to have a couple because if you're making certain meals that calls when you using one, you got the other one to back you up.
Speaking of meals, which leads to food, which leads to the garden, community garden. That's another thing I wanted to talk about. So we are waiting for all the paperwork right now and the price because we are wanting to actually buy the land this year. We looked into it last year. It wasn't in our budget. This year, it should be in our budget to acquire the land, to extend it. Plus, it's by my house. So literally, like, it's right there. There is a few things I have to do because the way the land is set up, we got a neighbor that has their own shed. And like, we're going to have to get them to come with us. So that way, keeping your neighbors happy, which is always important. So I think that's going to go good because like the kids call her grandma, you know what I mean? We've always taken care of her.
She's a good lady.
I don't see it being a problem. So
yeah.
That'll probably happen by March once we get the money in hand, get the paperwork. And I don't see them denying us because literally like no one else wants it or can't get it because it has to be butted up to your land.
Yeah.
And literally we've had this house 4 years. Last couple years, we've done some stuff to it. We've raised the value of our own house, and they got to look at that and be like, okay, ever since they've been living here, they've been doing repairs and everything else.
And our neighbors love our yards during the spring and summer. We just make it pretty, and they just keep complimenting it every day.
I know. Well, right now it doesn't because we're in the cold weather, but
Well, that's why I was like spring and summer because that's when we really get the flowers out there and
really get our hands in the dirt. See, my problem is like spring. I love doing the flowers in the spring. The beginning of summer is not bad, but when you get to that weather where like you can't breathe because there's so much humidity and it's so thick, and you're just like, that's another thing. Like my allergies are bad anyway. Like no matter what time of the year, I'm always blowing my nose, but it just gets super bad. around that time. I'm like, oh,
I'm hoping everything works out with the land this year, because our garden for sure will be so much bigger than it was last year, and we'll be able to grow so much more stuff.
well, not only that, the first year, I think the first year for anybody who gardens is like a trial and error.
It is. It really
Like,
is.
okay, I've never done this. Ooh, it's fun. It's exciting. Let's get it. And then, like when we first started our garden, it was doing it with a shovel and like digging and all this. And then we finally were able to get a tiller when most of it was almost done. And we're just like, this would have been so much easier.
It would have.
And like, so this year it's going to be a lot easier, less backbreaking, so to speak.
Well, we did put a lot of work into it. And we did actually was able to get some things off of it, but it was a small garden this year. Hopefully a big garden would be nice.
Yeah.
And we were able to help some people with the garden.
Yeah, I think we were able to do last year like 10 families, you know what I mean? Like, it wasn't so much that we had a big harvest that helped us be able to help 10 families. It was just people just took what they needed, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like a few tomatoes or like some potatoes or green beans. Like the
Yeah.
green beans were one of the things that went the quickest.
They went so fast.
The onions didn't really like the red onions. They did, but they didn't.
They didn't get very big, and I didn't understand that. I don't know.
I don't know if it was like the pH in the soil or what it was, but like
That's what I'm so glad about this other piece of land. Nothing has been grown on it except for grass for years. So I'm
Right.
thinking the soil is going to be real rich, and it'll actually produce.
plus the thing about us is like we don't use pesticides. We don't use all natural stuff. We use eggshells to kind of deter the bugs.
Yeah.
Peppers around the garden because the spice that'll keep away the others.
It will.
Then we, fence it in a little bit. But one of the other things, because one thing I did notice is like having herbs in pots and having them outside, it's great for the moment, but they're so finicky.
They are.
That with them being outside. So I'm going to try to get something inside and kind of do that. Just to kind of.
The ones we put in the garden, they just overgrown themselves.
Yeah, the sage did great.
Yes.
We didn't cultivate any of it. And that's another thing that I think will come back this year is that sage, and it'll come back thicker. The strawberries, we're going to have multiple plants coming them up. The blackberries should do really good this year. If we can get that land, I at least want to do a good row of tomatoes, at least a good 2 rows of green beans, because that was one of the things that most people like. Now, as far as potatoes, I'm not going to do potatoes in the ground.
No.
I got bags that I can do them in, but that'll be more probably for personal use
That was
because
another thing.
it takes forever for them to grow in the bag.
Our corn that we planted last year, it growed up nice and tall, but the corn cobs were real skinny. I don't know what happened.
And I
there.
think what that is like, I think that's how they're supposed to grow. I mean, occasionally they'll get bigger, but it also depends on the variety of corn. And it also depends on what you're putting in. Like if we would have pumped it full of like plant steroids, so to speak, it would have been like GMO stuff, you know what I mean?
Well, that's like, I spoke to some people that know a lot about gardening, and they say corn will literally strip all the nutrients out of the ground because it takes so much. So I think at this point when we were growing it, it had already took all the nutrients it could get out of the ground, and it just wasn't forming the cob as big as it should be. I'm thinking if we try again this year.
But it was still like a good enough size to where you could eat the corn off of it. Like we still got some.
I still got some in the freezer, yeah.
And like, you know what I mean? And then another good tip for anybody out there, corn husk water, or adding a little bit of that water into like milk or whatever,
yes,
does good things for you. Can use it for your skin, you can use it for your hair, you can use it for
doesn't that help you sleep too?
Yeah, no, that's the romaine lettuce.
Oh, that's right. I see I had it wrong. For some reason I was thinking that.
Yeah, steeping romaine lettuce, which it sounds like it tastes, you know what I mean?
Yes.
It's lettuce water. Like you can add honey to it and stuff like that, but I mean at that point you're probably defeating.
Will help you sleep.
Yeah,
though, and it's a natural
No.
way.
Give me 1 second, guys. I gotta take the doggy to go pee pee. All right, and since we had to take that little break, it's a perfect time to tell you about our good friends at Ragnar's Riches. They are at Caesars Creek Flea Market, aisle 5. And you should go check them out. They have a bunch of different things from wood burning to necklaces, paracord stuff. They got rune set. And I know that they've been expanding since then. So go out, tell them the Devine Witch sent you to Ragnar's Riches, and find the magic within.
That's right.
I figured it'd be a good little segue since I had to take a little break because the doggies were being crazy.
They were.
You know what I mean? But like we were talking about with the garden, like it's a fun experience and it's something you can do with your kids and like throughout the year. And then, we got the water sprinkler as well. So, we could just put that in the middle, have its own little space, and then just go inside and let it do its thing for whatever amount of time, you know what I mean? And, when you start cultivating the things, and it just tastes better. It really does. Like, you never really realize how much chemical. That's another thing. I hate buying carrots at the store.
I know.
And it tastes like they dipped them in chloroform and bleach.
I know it.
And you're just like, what happened? Like something happened real bad that it tastes like this. And then someone's like, it's edible.
What it is the farmers when they
I don't even think it's them. I think it's like when these companies get it and they clean it and they got it in this mixture, and some of them just try to kill you.
Well, the farmers, they do put pesticides on it to keep the bugs off, and because they have to keep it good, for the store to get it to sell it, so they do put pesticides on it.
Some of them do.
We don't do it in our garden because the pesticides are.
Yeah, but they've got like bunches of land. You know what I mean? We got like a little nib, but that's the thing though. Like some things just taste horrible, and I've noticed potatoes taste like that sometimes. Yeah. Broccoli, and I'm like, what is being put, or what is the process to where they're cleaning this, and it's just disgusting.
And when you have your own,
and no matter if you clean it or what, it's like that taste penetrates. So and anytime that I get food that has that taste, it automatically gets pitched. Like we've had apples do that.
Yeah.
And I'm like, it's just mind-boggling. And then yet we wonder why so many people have cancer. I don't know.
That's it.
Because you're literally consuming like this disgusting stuff, and I'm just like,
grow your own food. It's fresher tasting,
it's cheaper if you have the land to do it.
That is true. And, if you can get enough of it together out of your garden to stock it up for the winter, you're set for the winter, except for the accessories you have to get from the store.
There's this one thing I've seen too, and I thought about it. I'm like, this is a good idea, or maybe it'd be a good idea for like the herbs and stuff. But it's like an aeroponic
I've heard of that
style where it looks like this big tube, and you've got these little things, and like the roots grow, but they don't grow like in a pot. It's just like this tube. Like you still water it and everything, and it's got its own soil to get its nutrients. But the way that it's situated, and you can get like, I would at least say probably 20, 30 different styles of plants. Okay. And some people were doing like lettuce and like cabbage, and like you could only get like one head, probably, you know what I mean? But
you want to try it and see what we can do?
I would like to try it. I mean, I would rather do it for maybe do the top with like herbs, because you know. And then maybe do like the middle section to where it goes herbs on top, lettuce in the middle section, and then maybe try carrots at the bottom of it, what I mean? Because carrots normally are, everything's low to the ground when you're putting it in the ground, but you know what I mean? Like it's more in the ground.
It is.
And yeah.
Yeah, we'll give it a shot and see. I mean, the only thing that I know for with carrots, because carrots need depth to grow, because they grow straight down in the ground instead of upwards. But
see, I was also thinking about this too with them potato bags that we got.
Yes.
If we did carrots in that,
You could.
I guarantee we could probably get quite a bit in there, even if they grow together. Like, I don't care. Like, I normally chop up my carrots and everything else.
No,
Like,
and you
I
can,
don't sit there and grab a carrot and cook it whole with its little green edge. No, I'm not about that life. You know what I mean? But
and for anybody that wants to get these grow bags that where you can grow potatoes, like she said, carrots, whatever. If you're doing carrots, same way with potatoes, you just continuously add dirt to it as it grows into the bag.
see, I wonder though, if you do the carrots, if you well, I mean, I guess I would push it out, but then with carrots, it may not, because carrots grow downward
They grow down.
instead of pushing outward. You know what I mean? Like potatoes. Like realistically, you could fill that thing full of dirt. Could you imagine having a long carrot that's the size of the bag?
Well, they won't.
I mean,
they will grow long, but they probably won't get as long as the bag. But that'd be wild to see. Yeah.
well, you got to think normally when they're in the ground, something stops them or whatever. You know what I mean? And if you started, like, let's say if you had grow lights and stuff like that, you started in January
Right.
and let that thing grow all the way to like August
I have
and have like this big, huge carrot. Like, I know it sounds funny. Bugs Bunny would have loved, you know what I mean?
I have seen carrots in my time that grow like that, but they get real super skinny
Right.
because they get long.
You know what I also wonder too is if you could do, I know they vine out, but I don't know if they spike, kind of like strawberries do. But I wonder if you could put like one watermelon seed per bag and grow one watermelon in the bag.
That's a little iffy because watermelon is really bad on vining out.
Well, even if it vined out, you know what I mean? Like,
well, what would happen is in those type of bags, it would end up stunting itself because of the room that it doesn't have. They need a big area. Watermelon, pumpkins are another way, just like watermelon. They
well,
gotta have room.
some people will do them lifted up beds and put stuff like that in it, like cantaloupe, stuff like that. Like, you think it would be the same thing.
I mean, you could try
because those
it.
vines are what's going to come out first. And then once the vines come out, then you're going to have that little watermelon growing there, you know.
That would be the thing. Like in the bag, personally, what it will do is it'll root in the bag, and then wherever the vine goes out of the bag, that's where.
But how is it going to root?
No, it'll root in the bag.
But how would it root?
Because
when like how, like, I mean, I don't know the depth of what it goes in, but if the vines go outward, and that's where it gets most of its some of its nutrients, you know what I mean?
Well, yeah, it'll actually pull its nutrients from the roots. It will root in the bag as long as you got enough dirt in there for it to root down.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like the bags, I think we got are like 4-foot bags when they're completely filled.
That would work, but you could do it this way, but I would recommend like maybe setting the bag in an area out, on some land somewhere where it actually has room to vine out.
Right.
Because that's where you're going to start getting your watermelons is on the vines.
Yeah, see, I didn't think about that.
Yeah.
Because you'll get more than one per vine.
You will. Pumpkins are another way. They'll get more pumpkins per vine.
See, I thought I had it all planned out, and I'm like, because for some reason in my mind, I wasn't thinking about them growing on the vine. I was thinking of them coming up like in the middle, you know what I mean? Like,
it would be nice if it worked that way, but
someone needs to work on that, make it happen. Like, I'm giving you hope. It's like my brother, he was talking about like there's a thing like for strawberries or something where it hangs and it grows like downward or whatever. Yeah. And I'm like, that would be interesting to see. Like fresh strawberries, oh my God, do they taste good? Like last year when I got a taste of it, I was like, ah.
Yes.
And I only got a few, and then I had to fight the squirrels over them and the birds, and I'm like, you douchebags.
Well, they were really young when we planted them. It's like the blackberry bushes. We got a few off of it. They were young. I'm saying
watch this coming up year, it's just going to be nothing but strawberries in that little patch.
Oh, yeah, it'd be nice. You'll be able to actually make something out of it or whatever.
Make something. They got to make it to the kitchen to make something.
That's true. That is true.
Because normally during the summer, I drink a lot of water when I'm outside. Occasionally I'll drink a pop, but that's more like towards the night. You know what I mean? Like, because it just gets too hot. Like, I don't see how people go out there and drink during the summer. And they're just like, it makes you hot anyway, even if it's cold. Like, I'm a big girl doing big things, and heat expands me.
Yeah.
Like, you go outside and I'm like a girl in church, like waving my fan. And then I'm just sitting there and I'm miserable and I'm griping about being miserable. And then you end up looking at me like, you want to go in? No, I'm good. I'm good. And you're sitting there for another 20, 30 minutes and you're like, I'm done.
Yeah.
Like, I'm out.
Time to go in.
Time to go. But like, I try to be out there. Like, most time, if you see me outside, I'm either got people coming over for something, or I'm cooking on a grill, or I might be looking at some flower stuff or coming up with a new idea or putting like stuff up front. Now the front, that was my main thing. Like with my flowers, having them hanging and watering them and
Pretty.
sitting there having conversations with them, and you and Alex making fun of me, and like I'm like, don't.
Why are you talking to that flower? Because it hears you.
It does, man. Like, and I noticed like last summer there was one month where it was super hot and they were watering the plants for me, because I'm like, once it hits a certain point, like I can't go outside. Like it's asthma, it's something. And I'm just like, I can't breathe out here.
Yeah.
I went out there, they left dead leaves on my flowers. My flowers were withering. Oh, we watered them when 2 months ago, like. But like I was saying, so far, we covered the schedule. Patreon is still available. Now, I am doing this new thing too for people because a lot of people have been asking me lately, like, are you still doing classes and I can pay it during Patreon? Yes, I am, but I'm giving 2 options when it comes to that. So if you're wanting like a mentorship where like you have access to me at any point, you know what I mean? Unless like I don't have my phone on or I'm doing something, you know what I mean? And I'm not paying attention, of course, you ain't going to get a hold of me, but eventually I will get back to you within that day. Where we do 2 Zoom classes a week. You get individualized learning classes for, the whole month. So that's 1 each week. And then every 2 weeks, we go over what's been going on in your life and, what we've studied over the last couple of weeks. And then we cover that for an hour. I've got classes going on for $75. Now, normally I've been pushing people to go to Patreon to get that, but I've decided to open, if you want classes from me, you can do through PayPal and you can do through Cash App. Now, this is how I'm going to do it. So let's say if you decide today's the 18th. So let's say if you decide on the 18th, you bought a class, right? That money goes from the 18th of that month when your payment went through all the way to the 18th of the next month. With Patreon, they do it at the beginning of the month. So it's on the 1st. If the 1st don't work for you, or it never works for you because it's like later or middle of the week and it never falls on the 1st, but it's always one or the other, you can set it up with me where like every 3rd Wednesday is when you pay for your month of classes, you know what I mean? And you can do it the other 2, either Cash App or PayPal, and then, go from there. But I just started opening that up. Now, another thing that I'm thinking about offering is like counseling, spiritual counseling sessions where we talk about your spiritual life, not in the sense of like doing magic or witchcraft, but time to, have someone to work with you through shadow work and things like that. The price is the same as the classes. When it comes to that, it is 2 separate entities. But, once a week, we get together, we have a conversation for an hour at a time, see what's progress, see what didn't work for you, and then use spirituality along with different practices and different methods to kind of work through some of the things and see what breakthroughs you've had throughout the week and stuff like that. The reason I want to do this because, as you guys know, when it comes to like questions, anybody asks me or like teaching them something, if it's not something that's like extenuous, you know what I mean? Or like, you're wanting to, learn how to hex somebody. Like that's where I actually do my paid classes and stuff like that. But just like your average questions, whether it be about videos or, I need to do this, but I can't use this because I'm allergic to it. What else could I use in its place?
Right.
What would you suggest? Things like that. You know what I mean? Like I open myself up. But, as far as the like spiritual counseling or basically just to have someone there for you when you need them once a week, kind of talk from a spiritual perspective. I am opening that up to $75 a month. That means that you get my phone number, the whole 9 yards, and we can do it on Zoom. We can do it via phone. It's up to you. It's whatever works. If something happens before that time, you can send me a message and I can schedule up moving up our call date or whatever for that week. So that's one thing. Another thing that is the reason why I've started cutting back on the lives a little bit, because I know I'm going to be doing classes throughout this year. There's a local shop called Rue's Realm, and I know I've talked to Ragnar's Riches as well about holding certain classes or coming to do tarot readings and the tarot readings more at Ragnar's Riches, because I think Rue's Realm they do their own tarot and things like that. And as far as I know, they haven't said that they're going to introduce other readers to come in and things like that. So I think they're just going to do it by themselves, do that in-house when it comes to Rue's Realm. Excuse me, which Rue's Realm is in Middletown. Just throw that out there. You can look it up. You should be able to find them on Facebook and stuff like that. Same with Ragnar's Riches as well. But so that's going to be coming up. Now we do got the Witch Shop Hop, which tomorrow I will be talking with everybody about the Witch Shop Hop as far as my group goes. So that way we can cover things and get it situated. So that way everybody's on the same page. And then, the new things for the year, that, are going to be coming up, like Witch in the Woods and things like that. So I will be making a video eventually about that, like what we discussed. We will be reaching out to the shops. We do plan to do an egg hunt for the kids. If there are kids who would like to participate. We're thinking about throwing the hubby into a bunny suit, so that way people can get pictures with the hoppity hop, you know what I mean? Make it fun for everybody and then have like a good feast afterwards. But it's just getting it all together, getting Witch in the Woods prepped and ready, and then figuring out what we're going to do for the fall, and then figure out the location for Yule. Now, we are going to gauge interest. We're not going to spend money if we don't have to on certain things if people aren't going to be interested, because then it's a waste of resources. Like, for instance, let's say if nobody wanted to do a Yule event or come to a Yule event around here, then we would just take that money that we were going to spend on a building and then just get toys donated, or get, food and put it in all these boxes around here. So that way people can come up and they can get food, or go ahead and buy the complete meals for like 4 or 5 people to have complete Thanksgiving or Christmas meals or Yule meals, whatever you want to call them.
It's like last year we did the toy donation. There's so many kids.
We did the toy donation. We did the relief to the Kentucky Fund. Now we had talked about doing where you pick a kid that writes a letter to Santa. We may end up going that route this year and just focusing on that, gathering wood for the kids and then sending it. Last year was kind of too last minute to do it.
Well, we did do the toys.
Toys for Tots, we did
do that, and got a lot of toys for kids that can't have Christmas. I think it's a great thing.
And another thing that I want to do, and I don't really know how to go about it, is like, we always say, hey, we're an open community, and like after the whole protest for George Floyd, and I've been sitting here thinking for the last couple of years, like, what can I do that can bring out other people of different faiths, of different backgrounds, whether ethnically or like geographically, to our events, so that way it's not the same thing over and over, and making everybody feel comfortable and welcome. And it's kind of hard in Ohio because I don't know what the actual numbers are of like different demographics
Right.
as far as like religion. But I know some people, they don't want to be out and about because, their family might not agree with it and things
Right.
like that. So I think that's another thing by us kind of going to the closed group. And I know you guys heard last podcast where we were sitting there and we were talking about the pastor who is very interesting, and he's around our neck of the woods. Like, he's in Indiana. I believe it's Indiana. And Indiana or Indianapolis or somewhere. Like, I know he's close. Like, I know he's within the vicinity. If I wanted to drive it, I could get to his church. You know what I mean? Now, am I going to go looking for trouble? No, because that's not how I do things.
No.
But I do, as I sit back and I watch more come out and more come out, how this is turning out with that whole ordeal, which if you didn't see the description in the last video, I'll talk about it here, kind of bring it up again. You got this pastor who apparently how he got the 6 names of the women is he did an exorcism. And while he was doing the exorcism, he asked who was the other witches, and they just started giving names. Now, if you don't know anything about the witch trials, that's how the fucking witch trials started out. Like, that's no lie. Like, it was some girls going, oh no, this person taught me. And the next thing you know, it's hysteria. And everyone that looked at them wrong or didn't fit the right description, they were calling a witch. And before you know it, people were getting burned. Now, do I think people are going to get burned here? No. But is it a possibility it could happen depending on where you're at? Yeah. Because, the Klan is still alive and well. And, that's a thing. Now, I don't think the Klan's in it. And I'm not saying that they're in it, but you get what I'm saying.
Right.
And I'm just like, ugh. And, so we had that whole discussion about that and basically how he's doing this and talking about deliverance and like, believe it or not, he's getting a lot of support, a lot. So that just kind of lets you know that, it's there. And that fear that people have and can be preyed on is deep.
Yeah.
Real deep, especially in what they call like Ohio, they say is on the Bible Belt or whatever. And,
but there's still freedom of religion.
Right. There's still freedom of religion, but then you've got, it's like saying, I'm not saying hurt anybody, but I'm saying call people out to where they could get hurt. You know what I mean? If somebody wanted to be an extremist, and that's with anybody.
That's true.
A pagan could be like, go after the Christians and, burn all the Bibles, have a Bible burning and all that. You know what I mean? Like, it could happen.
It could.
Have I seen it happen? No. But could it? Yeah, because people are freaking nuts, you know what I mean? But like, one thing I will say, if it is true, because I haven't verified it, I'm going off by what I've seen from his videos because I've been kind of watching and seeing what's going on. But supposedly they donated over $100,000 to sex trafficking because he said that instead of them profiting on the money that they're getting, taking 10% only for the church and 90. Now that in myself, that's kind of where I'm okay with Greg.
Because he's helping.
Because if you're really doing it and you're putting that money towards it and you're helping your community, that's amazing.
That's the only good thing I can say about him. The other thing I don't.
Now, do I believe in this rhetoric of chasing people and all that? No. But do I believe that he has a freedom to express himself? Yes. Because like I have the freedom to express myself saying, this is fucked up. He has the right to say, be gone, which take your broom and fly. Like,
that's it. He
has that right. And if I want to find middle ground with what is going on, I respect if you're doing what you say you're doing and you're taking care of people and helping people out, I can respect that. And I think that's kind of why he's got a lot of people flocking besides, he's not saying burn the witches, but you get what I'm saying, persecute, call them out, deliverance, evil, the whole 9 yards, you know what I mean? Like, I think that's another reason why people's like, okay, yeah, he's bad on this and I don't agree with it, but he's doing this and, we're seeing it. So as far as that, it's kind of the demon wheel, so to speak, and not to be like, playing on words because of what we're talking about, but
Right.
it's kind of that, yeah, you got the bad, but over here's the good.
That's it.
And, me being me, no, I don't agree with what he's doing as far as what he's saying.
Yes.
But if he's doing the actions that he's claiming that he's doing by helping women who are being, trafficked, kids being able to get food and stuff like that, helping single women who are having issues, I personally see that as a great thing.
I do.
But I wish there was just some middle ground. Like, you don't have to believe in paganism or witchcraft or whatever. Like, that's cool, man. Like, do you? But my thing is like, on one hand, you're talking about love and you're doing all this stuff that just promotes growth. And you don't know for a fact if the money you're giving is helping out a witch. You're not being guaranteed that.
You're not.
So do you see the dilemma in which I have? Like, you're talking about the occult, you're talking about the Masons, which that,
Oh, man.
I'm not saying he's wrong with some of the stuff that he says, but I'm like, you're going off the wrong crowd on that one. That's not my territory. That's not my drum circle. So I'm not even gonna like defend or not defend that. They're their own people, you know what I mean? Like, and it's been around for a while. And we've all heard stories. And if you haven't, you're going to deep dive eventually and you'll hear about the Masons and you'll start noticing different symbols and be like conspiracy, right? But, like, how can you say that when you're donating to these other things that you don't know where that money is really going?
And even if you asked, you may not be given the right answer.
You may not be given the truth. You may not be given the full thing. And it's like,
the answer you want to know. I mean, you shouldn't say right answer.
It's like I'm saying I'm donating to this cause, but I can't stand that anybody that's not LGBTQ friendly. I don't believe that a woman should be forced not to have a baby or to keep a baby. You know what I mean? To keep a baby, not to have a baby.
Right.
But you know what I mean. And yet I go to Chick-fil-A every Sunday.
That's right.
You know what I mean? Or whatever. Like, don't get me wrong. Occasionally I eat a Chick-fil-A sandwich because,
it's good.
It's good. It's not bad. Like, I don't support the company, but occasionally you want that chicken sandwich. But that's what I'm saying. Like, there's so many different spectrums when it comes to hate. And it's hard. And it's even hard for me to look at somebody who's pushing so much hate and trying to find the good.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not sitting here because I sympathize with him. I'm not sitting here because I know him, because I don't know him from Adam and Eve or,
Whatever.
Zeus. You know what I mean? Like, whatever you want to put it. But, well, I mean, I know Zeus, but you know what I mean? Like, you get what I'm saying? Steve down the street. There we go. But it just, I don't understand it. I don't understand something that was supposed to be love. Like, I get some translations and at the time, because if you think about it, when the Bible was happening and we're saying not suffer a witch to live, right? Paganism was the most big religion. And then you're going from a polytheistic religion to a monotheistic religion, which if you don't know the difference, poly is where there's multiple, mono is one. Okay. Right. So that's what I'm saying. And then you're going to know which to live. Well, that was the whole conversion right there.
Yeah.
Like, that's why I think that part in the Bible was there, because they're trying to change a person's belief.
Yep.
And when they were going through and saying either convert or die,
yep,
don't suffer a witch to live. That's because true. If you let a small group, eventually that small group turns into a big group.
Yep.
And then they come and they say, fight the power.
That's it.
That's how it is. That's how it happens. You know what I mean?
And I think that's what this guy you're talking about is doing. He's gathering up.
Like, as far as like religion goes and spirituality, it's good to have a faith. But how can you take a faith that's supposed to be loving, caring, being devoted, honor, trust, not only with who you're with, but your spirituality and your community. And then just go after people. Like, it's one thing if you don't want them around you, you don't have to break bread with them. You don't have to talk with them. You don't have to look at them. They may not like it, but at least, you know, they know where they stand with you. You know what I mean? But what also gets me too is if you have witches, supposedly, in your congregation, and they're there, how do you know the intent is malicious?
You don't.
How do you know the person that you did this exorcism on doesn't have schizophrenia or a mental illness?
You don't.
That they're not being treated for. Now, they know their congregation a little bit more than I do. I don't know them. Wishing the best. Good luck to you. Hopefully your life turns out right.
Right.
Now, there are some things that I've watched that he's talked about where it's like, one of the things that he talked about in a video, and I can't remember which one it was he was talking about how people come into his church and they ask to speak to him. And they're talking about their spouse or whatever. And then, you know, addiction, drug addiction, like, oh, how long is it going to take? You said that 5 years ago, and you've been coming in here every week complaining about the same thing, but you ain't making the changes. And yet you come to me like, I'm just going to make it happen. You've got to take the change.
You do.
Because if you're focusing on hoping somebody else can change and you're focusing all that energy, you're not helping yourself and you're not helping your spirituality. Which, no matter your religion, that's true. If someone keeps on sitting there telling you, hey, I'm going to change, and they never change, but you're so focused on helping them change, but they don't want to make that change, then all areas of your life are affected.
Yep.
That I can agree with. Now, he went on later and said some stuff that I don't agree with, but some of the things I can agree with. I can have common ground.
Right.
Now, him have common ground with me probably ain't going to happen. If it does, I'll let you know. We'll record it and
right.
I'll show you, you know, but I don't know if it's being able to find the good in everybody or being able to acknowledge the balance, even if it doesn't fit in line with me.
Right.
Because I deal with people who have, not deal with people, but like I talk to people who have different thoughts, different beliefs, different political beliefs than I do. Doesn't mean that I can't be friends with them.
True.
Doesn't mean that I can't work with them. No, because they have a difference in belief. But there is a point to where, like, if we keep on, you know, pushing hate, when hate gets pushed to us, how are we able to resolve it? Or at least leave the door open to be resolved?
Right.
Because people grow, people change. You never know what's going to happen in the next 10 years. For all we know, this man had a moment where he's like, I'm so sick and tired of hearing people be all woe is me. And he's like, I'm stepping up. I'm tired of it. I mean, and he's like, how do I send this message? And let's be realistic. Paganism itself draws in the news media. It does. It does. It really does. I was like, as far as, like when we did the protest, they didn't care about the protest. Yeah. They even told me, we don't care. Well, one of them told me. The rest of the news reporters were pretty cool. But one tells me, I'm not here because of this protest. I could care less. I'm here because you're pagan in this protest. I'm like, whoa. Well, then I don't want to talk to you. No. And I walked away.
No.
I'm like, then you're not here. And I even told him, I was like, and you're the reason why there's issues.
That's true.
And I walked away. He just looked at me. I'm pretty sure they scrapped it because I didn't feed into this hate mongering that they wanted.
They wanted, yeah.
And you'll notice that, like, I've talked to different reporters and done different things because of either what I'm doing in the community or just having that, you know, whatever, you know what I mean, where they come to me because they know, and I'm out here in the public and I've met them a couple times.
Shoot, the newspaper even came to you.
That's what I'm saying. The guy that does the newspaper, he is such a sweetheart. Even if we were to disagree, you know, every time I've talked to him, he is just so sweet. And I say that in the most respectful way.
Right.
Like he reminds me what journalism used to be.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like where you're kind and you're trying to find the truth and trying to see all sides, not this corruption, put people against each other. And if you think they don't do it, they do it. I'm telling you right now, it's all about back and forth narrative being pushed. And after that day, I was like, you know, you notice it and you hear people talk about it, but until you really see it, you're just like, what the heck? You know what I mean?
You know, most of these reporters are just out to get their story. They care less about what it is. They're just out to get that story.
Right.
And some of them are more than that. Some of them want to get their story, but they also want to meet up with the people and actually see how they are and have a conversation with them. And, you know, before they go and turn all that back in, you know, they actually want to get to know that person. It's very few, but
well, that's what I'm saying. It's like no matter if it's religion, politics, or jobs, people are people.
That's it.
You can't make somebody a good person. You can't make somebody do what you want them to do.
Nope.
But you can be well versed and well adjusted within yourself and your spiritual path to recognize, I don't agree with this. And part of it, it angers me. But how do we take this and spin the narrative to where it's not like this? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I know it's hard for some people. Like there's some people that'll hear this and be like, F that, you know, this is BS. And you know, you're validated.
Right.
You have the right to feel what you're feeling. But, you know, I always look at the bigger picture of like, how do we change? Not for the better of us or the better of the person that we've got the issue with, but how do we change in a way to where the next generation looks at this and is like, well, why did it go on that long? You know what I mean? And, you know, it gets grimy and people get aligned and there's all different things when it comes to that, because no matter what, politics is involved. And, you know, you got to conduct yourself a certain way, because if you don't, you know, people may misconstrue who you are, you know, and you're not being real enough, or people think that you have secret motives. And it's like, everybody does have an agenda they want to fit, because you got to think, if people are dedicating their life, whether it be to spirituality or to a job, yeah, you do want to push it to where people know you.
Right.
People network with you. You work with somebody, they work with you. You know, that is pushing the narrative.
That's it.
But it doesn't mean that by pushing that narrative to growth, not only for one individual or for, you know, a helping hand, because, you know, if you think about community, one person's downfall is another person's skill. You know what I mean? And you work together to kind of build each other on your strengths and weaknesses. It's like team building 101.
Yeah.
But there's a difference between doing that and having ill intent of something else.
Yeah.
Like just to gain money, just to be rich. I'm going to tell you right now, I'll never be rich in what I'm doing. And
No,
Jason Momoa still hasn't came to take me away, even though him and Lisa aren't together no more. And, you know, I'm sad about that. I've been waiting for Aquaman to come save the day, but so far, not yet. But, you know, dream on, right? I was like, oh, when I seen that, I was like, it's kind of weird. Because, like, when you watched him, when he first got with her, like he was talking about when he seen her on TV when he was younger and all that, but that's their relationship and stuff. But I just thought it was weird because it was just out of the blue. Like, I don't keep up with him as much as you think I would, but enough to be like, you're a gorgeous man, you're funny, and you can throw an axe and drink a beer at the same time. You've got my intrigueness. You know what I mean? Like, just rugged. Put him out in the woods and watch him go. Like, you know, that kind of fun little thing, you know what I mean? But he seems like he's a good person.
He does.
And that's the thing, like, you meet people who you don't even have to meet, you know what I mean? And they give you certain vibration. Doesn't mean you know all of them. I mean, realistically, we all have our good side, and people think that we're angelic or some form of like can't do no wrong. And then we have the people that look at us and go, you're the scum of the earth. That's everybody. You're not going to appease everybody. And we know that. But it's one of those things where, like, there's just some people that you feel their vibration, no matter if they're close to you or if they're further away. And you just get the sense of, like, it's a good person.
Right.
You know? And sometimes some people's good person barometer, whatever you want to call it, a little ding ding, little bell is a little bit off. That's how you get things like people who do really bad things to people. And nobody knows because they're like, oh, they're perfect.
Yeah.
It's the perfect ones you got to watch out for, kids. Just know that. But yeah, I think that we've probably been going for about a good hour, maybe an hour and a half. I don't really know. And we've been all across the board. So far today, we have talked about kitchen witchery. We talked about Greg Locke once again. As you guys know, I'm not going to tag him down below because I'm not trying to feed into all that. But I'm just giving my perspective when it does come to that. We have talked about, as far as the garden, getting the land, community garden. We've also talked about uploads and how that's going, events that we're going to be working on. You guys know that I'm going to be meeting with the Devine Witch staff tomorrow night. We're going to be doing all that. So expect a video coming up about that. I'll probably do it like this style. So that way in the beginning, we can kind of talk about what's going on behind the scenes and then just go into randomness. But, if you take anything away from this, just take it as this, we're all individuals just trying to make it in this world. And even when someone's doing you wrong or someone just seems like they're ill intent, you got to realize your energy is your energy. And you have the ability to be offended or wounded because of someone's energy. But you can take that and make it something that's a learning experience. Something that when someone else faces it, you can give them that knowledge. And I know we're all dealing with our own stuff daily. And we don't always express it, whether it be to our loved ones or just to friends, you know what I mean? Because we got to keep up this image that we allow ourselves to keep up. But just remember, you're not alone. And eventually, at some point, it's all going to come to a close. And the most important thing to remember is that you got a community, whether it be online, whether it be in your actual community, or whether I'm just your community. You're a community. It's a community of one. Well, two, because you and me, that makes two.
Right.
But I'm a package deal, so I come with 3 other people. So it'd be like what, 5 of us all together, 6, something like that. But with that being noted, keep on doing what you can with your spirituality. Try to be better than you were the day before. And always remember, no 2 witches, witch like.